now we're switching gears a little bit, and we're gonna your mind is medicine is our next talk. So a little glimpse into the psychology of disease, and Kareem's going to share with us the power of thought and emotion in health. So really, really fascinating topic, and really excited that Kareem was able to be here with us and share this. So let me just share. So Karim Premji is a graduate of the Institute of Holistic Nutrition. He graduated as valedictorian with first class honors and has also completed his certification in clinical iridology. Before starting his wellness career, Karim studied information technology management at Ryerson University, where he also graduated with first class honors. And during his studies, he built a supplement business that now has over 70,000 customers through a direct sales model. This shifted his passion towards being a wellness entrepreneur and is what led him to becoming a nutritionist. After graduating at IHN, he became a nutritionist at Healthy Planet, one of the leading health food stores, and has continued to do work in the nutrition industry from there. He is also on the field advisory council for a supplement company called Trivita. And Karim has also been in private practice where he's helped many people with clinical iridology and optimizing their diets for wellness. He is also a writer and has been featured in a documentary film, The Wellness Story, along with a few segments on Rogers TV, Health Matters. As a graduate of the landmark worldwide curriculum for living, he loves to share the possibility of wellness and transformation as a state that can be achieved through living a balanced lifestyle and being at cause of one's own health and well-being. Here at IHN, Karim teaches fundamentals of nutrition, comparative diets, and the psychology of disease. Karim, welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Glad
Welcome,
to be
Kareem.
here. So before we get started, thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm so thrilled to be here and excited to be part of this open house. And just so I can share a little bit about my giveaway before we get started, I am giving away a nutritional consultation that I typically do charge $197 for. That's the value. So if anybody wants to win this, just scan the QR code and make a note of the discount code. And then Elizabeth will share more about that at the end. So I'm really looking forward to that. And again, it's always nice to give something of value away and share that with our audience. Now, first of all, I just want to, again, thank you for joining us. And whether you're here because you're curious about holistic nutrition or because you're seeking something deeper within yourself or for others, you're at the right place. And what I'm going to ask you to do, which is a little bit different, is to grab a piece of paper and a pen. All right, so take a moment. Please do that because we're going to actually use this in our workshop today. You're actually going to get some value by doing some of the exercises that I'm going to walk you through. Okay, so everybody do that, including if you're already a student or if you've been in any of my classes. Please do this. You're going to love what we're going to do today. So as I said, my name is Karim, and today I'm going to invite you on a journey. Not just a lecture about the brain or biology, but a deeper exploration into how your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs actually shape your health every single day. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt your stomach tighten before a big decision? Or noticed how your energy just crashes after an argument, even if nothing physically happened? Now, that's not just in your head. That's your body responding to your thoughts. Your biology is actually listening. And today we're going to explore why and how this understanding can transform not only your health, but your purpose. And this is what makes holistic nutrition different. It's not just about the food, it's about the whole human experience. And at IHN, we teach our students how to see the full picture. You know, the story behind the symptoms, the emotions behind the cravings, and the belief behind the burnout. So my intention today is to help you see that inner world. I want to give you a little glimpse of that today in this workshop. I want you to see your mindset, your emotional landscape, and even your energetic patterns. And they're not just real, they're very, very powerful. They're actually influencing your cells, your hormones, your digestion, your immune system, and guess what? Even your genetic expression. And the best part is that you can actually change it. You are not a victim of your biology. You're actually an author. So before we begin, let's do something very simple, but very important. Let's land. What do I mean by that? I'd like you to take a moment and gently close your eyes just for a moment. And I'd like you to place your hand on your heart if that feels comfortable for you. And just for a moment, I'd like you to inhale deeply through your nose and exhale slowly through your mouth. Take a moment and do that right now. Inhale through your nose. Take a deep breath. And exhale slowly through your mouth. I want to let yourself arrive. Let yourself receive. This isn't just a class, it's a remembering of what your body has always known. So let's get started. Now, before we dive in, I want to share something I'm really excited about. Throughout the holistic nutrition program here at IHN, we explore some truly life-changing books that don't just fill your head with facts, but actually shift the way you feel and see the healing journey. One of those books is Heal Your Body by Louise Hay. It's simple but powerful. Louise helps us see how emotional patterns like guilt, anger, or fear can show up in the body as real physical symptoms. And the best part, she offers beautiful affirmations to help shift that energy. It's a gentle but profound introduction to the emotional roots of dis-ease. Now, another author is Biology of Belief, and this was one of my favorite books by all means. And this is by Dr. Bruce Lipton. I absolutely love this because it's where science meets soul. Bruce was a stem cell biologist who discovered that our thoughts and our environment can literally change how our genes behave. And this book cracks open the world of epigenetics, and we'll talk about what that means today. And it shows us that we are not victims of our DNA. We are actually very powerful creators. And finally, there's the book Awakening Intuition by Mona Lisa Schultz. This one is all about developing that inner knowing. The book teaches us how to really listen to the body through emotion, sensation, and even subtle energy. So as future holistic practitioners, this kind of intuitive listening is one of the most valuable tools we can develop. So these books aren't just assigned reading, they become companions, guides that shape how we understand healing and how we get to support our clients, and as we grow as people. And the cool part is that as we go through the course, you start to see how they all kind of weave together into a much bigger picture. And by the time we're done the course, you are actually transformed. You've gone through such an experience during the course that your mind, your patterns all have a profound shift in the way that you operate. Now, I want to begin today not with a science lesson, but with a story that always tends to hit home. So let me introduce you to Sarah. She came to me a couple of years ago, and to be honest, she was completely worn out. Just like our previous teacher talked about, she was stressed out, and to be honest, she didn't know what to do. She was in her 30s. She was exhausted all the time. Her digestion was a mess. She had bloating, food sensitivities, always feeling inflamed. She had joint pain in her hands and her knees that made her feel twice her age. And emotionally, she felt flat. And she described it as a sort of fog. And here's the thing, Sarah had already tried everything. She had seen naturopaths, she had done food sensitivity panels, she eliminated gluten, dairy, and sugar. She had a cupboard full of supplements and a whole bunch of lab results. But her body wasn't responding. Not really. Then we started working together and we slowed everything down. I asked her to start noticing not just what she was eating, but what she was thinking. What was her internal dialogue like? And what emotions had she pushed aside for years? What stories was she telling about herself and she was still living inside of? And guess what emerged? And it was heavy. Sarah was carrying so much grief she had never spoken aloud. The death of her father when she was 12, the responsibility of being the strong one in her family, the quiet panic she lived in with every day, wondering if she'd ever feel normal again. And underneath it all was this constant voice in her head. You know, that voice that's talking to you right now. That one. There it is. It's saying stuff to you as we're going through this presentation. That's that inner voice. And you know what I was telling her? You're not doing enough. You should be better by now. It's your fault you feel this way. Now, can you imagine waking up to that every morning? And the turning point wasn't another detox or supplement protocol. It was the moment Sarah gave herself permission to feel, to actually feel. And guess what? She started writing again, crying, breathing. We brought in heart-based practices. She learned how to interrupt that self-criticism and speak to herself like someone she loved. And slowly, her body began to change. Her digestion calmed down, the inflammation eased, her energy came back in waves and then stayed. She wasn't just healing her body, she was healing her relationship with herself. This is the power of the mind-body connection. When we address the emotional and energetic root, not just the physical symptoms, we create the space for real transformation. And the best part, we all have access to it. It's already inside of all of us. So let's take a moment to turn inward for just a second and try this out. Go ahead and grab a piece of paper or even the Notes app on your phone. And I'd like you to do this exercise. Really dive in, really get on the court with me today for the short period we have today. And I bet it's going to make a huge difference for you. I'd like you to write down what's one thought I repeat often that might be draining my energy. Don't overthink it. Just write it down. What comes to mind? And again, we're not judging. We're simply becoming aware. So take a moment now and write that down. All right, hopefully you wrote that down, and we're going to come back to that in just a bit. So let's shift into a little bit of science, but I promise this is the kind of science that makes your heart beat faster in a good way. Have any of you heard of Dr. Bruce Lipton before this conversation? Well, as I mentioned, He's a former stem cell biologist, okay? So really much in the lab looking at cells all day long. But he did something pretty wild. He walked away from the traditional lab and started exploring the bridge between biology and consciousness. What he discovered flipped our understanding of genetics upside down. For a long time, we were told that our DNA was our destiny. How many of you have heard of that or feel that way? You know, that if something ran in the family, whether it was cancer, depression, diabetes, or even autoimmune diseases, then it was just a matter of time. But Lipton's research revealed something groundbreaking. It's not your DNA that determines your health outcomes. It's actually the environment around your cells. And what creates that environment? Guess what? It's your thoughts, your emotions, your perceptions of the world around you, and then everything else we do in our lifestyle, like the food, the nutrition, the environment where we live, the light exposure, and all those things as well. But there's a huge emphasis on what's going on in your internal environment that creates also a very powerful cascade of chemical messengers. For example, when you feel safe, loved, and supported, your brain releases hormones like oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine, hormones that tell your body, we're okay, we can grow, we can rest, we can heal. This is called growth mode. But when you're stuck in fear, self-judgment, or overwhelm, the body doesn't know if it's because a lion is chasing you or if it's just your inner critic. It just knows that we're not safe. And this is when stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline flood the system. They shut down digestion, they suppress the immune system, and they increase inflammation. This is survival mode. It is a wonderful system for emergencies back thousands of years, but it's not meant to be your default setting. The truth is, you could be eating the cleanest diet in the world, taking all the supplements, and still be stuck in survival mode simply because your internal environment is the one in fear, self-doubt, or pressure. And this is where Bruce Lipton's most powerful message comes in. Your beliefs shape your biology. So if you believe you're unsafe, your body will act like it. If you believe you're not worthy of rest or love, your body will reflect that stress. But if you believe healing is possible, if you believe you are worthy and supported and growing, your body will listen. This is the biology of belief. You are not a victim of your genes. You're actually the author of your expression. So now that we understand that your beliefs shape your biology, let's take that idea even further into something called epigenetics. We talk a lot about that in the psychology of disease. Epigenetics literally means above the genes. It's the science that shows us that our genes are like little tiny light switches. They can be. And remember, our environment includes what we eat, but also how we think, how we feel, and even how safe we feel in the world. And there's a really fascinating study that really brings this idea to life. So let's talk about these little cute mice. Yes, mice. And let's talk about what happened with the study. In a study that became one of the most famous epigenetic studies in those circles, researchers looked at a group of genetically identical mice called agouti mice. Now, these mice carry a gene that normally makes them obese, yellow in color, and prone to diseases like diabetes and cancer. But here's the twist. When pregnant agouti mice were fed a diet high in methylation nutrients like folate, B12, and choline, just think about them as your B vitamins, they actually gave birth to healthy brown mice with normal weight and significantly reduced disease risk. Same exact DNA, but different expression of that DNA. Why? Because the nutrients the mother consumed influenced which genes got turned on and which ones got turned off. That's epigenetics in action. Now you'd be thinking, okay, but I'm not a mouse. That's true. But here's the big takeaway. Your story is not written in stone. Your biology is actually constantly responding to the messages you send it through food, environment, thoughts, relationships, and your beliefs. And this is why in holistic nutrition, we teach that healing doesn't come from one place. It's not just about what's on your plate, it's also about what's in your mind, your heart, your environment, and your story. The agouti mouse study shows us that even when you inherit certain genes, you still have power. Power in your choices, power in your self-care, power in your perspectives. So if you've ever thought, well, it runs in my family, I want to offer you this gentle message. You may have inherited the genes, but you don't have to inherit the outcome. Let me say that one more time. You or your clients may have inherited the genes, but you don't have to inherit the outcome. And that, to me, is one of the most helpful messages in science today. Now, if you are interested in the agouti mouse study and you're all about the technicalities of how it happened, I invite you to scan this QR code on your screen and you can pull up that research paper for yourself. So if genes are not our destiny, and we can influence our biology through environment, nutrition, and emotion, then let's talk about one of the most powerful environments of all, your inner world. Because here's the thing, we can take the supplements, we can eat the kale, but if we're running the same old thoughts and beliefs under it all, healing only goes so far. Dr. Bruce Lipton takes this even deeper. He teaches us that about 95% of our thoughts are subconscious. That means only 5% of the time are we consciously choosing our thoughts. The other 95%, that's old programming. Patterns we picked up in childhood, from our family, from society, or even trauma. So imagine that your mind is like a radio receiver. Every belief you hold about your health, money, love, your worth is like a station you're tuned into. And the body? The body is always listening to that signal. If the frequency you're tuned into sounds like, I'm not safe, I have to do it all alone, no matter what I do, it's never enough, then your nervous system will stay in survival mode. You may have chronic tension, digestive issues, fatigue, and anxiety, and not even know that your old belief is at the root. But here's the really beautiful part. Just like we can change the song on the radio, we can change the frequency we're tuned into, but it starts with awareness. And awareness starts with a single question. So I'm going to give you a simple thing to write down, and I'd like you to consider for just a moment. What is a belief I inherited that I'm ready to release today? Now, don't worry about getting it right. Just let something rise up to the surface. Again, it's not about judgment. It's about gently seeing what's been there all along. So take a moment right now and see what you can come up with in the next 10 to 15 seconds. All right. Thank you for doing that. So, what do we do once we've identified a limiting belief? How do we actually change the frequency we've been tuned into for years, maybe even decades? This is where the science of neuroplasticity comes in, and this part gives me so much hope. This is where the science meets actual change physically in your body. Because neuroplasticity means that your brain is not fixed, it's moldable, it's adaptable. And thank goodness, because if it weren't, we'd all be stuck in our old childhood programming forever. Now, the truth is, every time you think a new thought, especially one that challenges an old pattern, you start to build a new neural pathway. And just like a little trail in the forest, the more you walk that path, the stronger and clearer it becomes. But it's not just about thinking differently, it's about feeling differently too. When you combine a thought like, I am safe or I am enough, with the emotion of love, relief, or gratitude, that's when your nervous system starts to shift. That's when the new programming really lands. Studies using brain imaging have shown that practices like mindfulness, meditation, and compassion-focused therapy actually shrink a part of the brain called the amygdala, which is your fear center, and strengthen the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for things like emotional regulation, intuition, and empathy. That's huge because it means that when you practice things like stillness, breath work, gratitude, or simply being kind to yourself, you're not just calming down, you're rewiring your brain for peace. You're building new circuitry. You're shifting out of survival mode into growth. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. So if you ever thought, I'm just wired this way, know this, wiring can also change. You have the power to become the person your nervous system didn't know how to before. So let's not talk about it, let's practice it. We're going to take just a moment to experience what it feels like to begin wiring for peace. You don't need anything but your breath and a little willingness. So go ahead and close your eyes again, or soften your gaze if that feels a bit more comfortable. Take a slow breath in through your nose and exhale gently through your mouth. One more time. Inhale peace and exhale tension. Now, place your hand on your heart. Just feel the warmth of your touch and let it be an anchor. And repeat silently in your mind as I say these words. I am safe to slow down. I am safe to change. Peace is possible right here, right now. And just breathe with that. Let your nervous system feel what safety sounds like. Let your brain register a new pattern, one of kindness, one of calm. And take one more breath in and release. Gently open your eyes, and when you're ready, that was one 30-second moment. It was one small moment of practice. But what if you did that daily or even a few times a week? You actually start to build new wiring. And that's the path to healing. One breath, one thought, one feeling at a time. Now, that 30-second practice we just did, it might have felt simple, but for some people, especially those with trauma in their past, that kind of stillness can feel surprisingly hard. And there's a reason for that. We don't all start with the same baseline of safety in the body. And this brings us to something incredibly important and deeply relevant to the work we do in holistic health. It's called the ACE study, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. This was a massive study conducted by the CDC and Kaiser Permanente in the 1990s. Researchers looked at over 17,000 adults and asked them about their childhood experiences, things like emotional neglect, abuse, instability, witnessing addiction or violence at home. And what they found was startling. The more adverse experience somebody has in childhood, the higher their ACE score, the greater their risk in adulthood for autoimmune diseases, heart disease, depression, addiction, obesity, and even early death. But here's the thing. These weren't just psychological patterns, they were biological outcomes. Why? Because trauma wires the body into long-term stress. It keeps the nervous system on high alert even decades after the original events have passed. The body doesn't forget what the mind tries to ignore. In fact, sometimes the body becomes the messenger through symptoms, fatigue, inflammation, or dis-ease. And this is why we say emotional healing is physical healing. As holistic practitioners, we're not just asking, what are you eating? We're also gently asking, what did you have to carry that was too heavy too soon? Where did your body learn to brace, to hold, to shut down? What part of you still believes the world isn't safe? Because when we help clients feel safe again, not just mentally, but somatically, the healing that unfolds is often more powerful than any protocol. So if you've ever wondered why some people do everything right and they still don't get better, this might be part of that answer. So as we move forward in this workshop today, we're going to keep weaving these threads together because your biology and your biography are deeply connected. So after looking at that impact of early stress and trauma on our biology, you might be wondering, what do we do with all that emotion we've been carrying around? This is where I want to bring back in the work of someone I absolutely love, Mona Lisa Schultz, author of the book Awakening Intuition. Schultz writes that emotions aren't bad, they're messengers. They're not weaknesses, they're guidance systems. They're the body's way of trying to communicate when something is out of alignment. But for most of us, especially growing up, we weren't taught how to listen to emotions. We were taught to suppress it. Don't cry, be strong, don't be so sensitive. Does that sound familiar? So we learn to override, to push through, to minimize. But the body doesn't override. The body remembers. What the mind avoids, the body stores. And over time, chronic unprocessed emotion becomes chronic tension. And that tension can show up as tight muscles, digestive issues, hormonal imbalances, and even autoimmune diseases. Emotions are energy, and energy needs to move. When it doesn't, it gets stuck. But here's the empowering part. When we pause, when we allow space to actually feel what we've been avoiding, something shifts. The body doesn't need us to be perfect. It just needs us to be present. It's not about wallowing. It's just about witnessing. Because sometimes the most healing thing we can do is to say to ourselves, I see that you're scared. I hear that you're angry. I understand that you're hurting. When we become fluent in the language of emotion, we begin to access a whole new level of intuition and healing. So let's check in for a moment. Write this down in your notebook or your notes app. Is there an emotion I've been avoiding that might be asking for my attention? What might that be? Just notice what comes up Don't filter or judge. Just let it rise and let it be heard for just a moment. So now that you've taken a moment to tune in, to acknowledge an emotion that maybe hasn't been having enough airtime lately, that alone is powerful because what we just did, that's what so many people have never been taught to do. Because you know what? They think of emotional processing as a soft skill, but in truth, it's deeply biological. So let's talk about what actually happens in the body when we suppress emotions. Every time we push something down, whether it's sadness, anger, fear, or grief, the body perceives that suppression as a kind of internal stress. And what does the stress trigger? The release of cortisol and adrenaline, your fight or flight chemicals. So when you suppress emotion, cortisol rises, digestion slows down or shuts off, inflammation increases, sleep becomes disrupted, hormonal balance suffers, and over time, this leads to a weakened immune system, blood sugar issues, weight gain, anxiety, and chronic fatigue. But here's the amazing part. When you allow yourself to gently feel, to acknowledge what's true without judgment, your body shifts into the parasympathetic state, also known as rest and digest mode. And this is where healing happens. It's in that state that digestion improves, detoxification turns on, inflammation decreases, repair processes accelerate. Your body is incredibly intelligent. It knows how to feel. It just needs permission to stop bracing for impact. That's why feeling isn't weakness. It's actually a form of biological intelligence. Emotion is part of your chemistry. Feeling is part of your immunity. When we create a space for emotional honesty, we create conditions for the body to return to balance. And this is the kind of healing we talk about in holistic nutrition, not just about symptom management, but about supporting the whole person. So now that we know when you feel your emotions, instead of just stuffing them down, your body shifts into a healing state. But let's go even deeper than that. Because between the mind, emotions, and biology, there's also something that's really exciting. And it's the field that you may not have heard of yet, but it's called psychoneuroimmunology. I know it's a big word, but simply it describes the relationship between the mind, the psycho, the nervous system, neuro, and the immune system, immunology. And what this field has shown is quite stunning. Your system doesn't just respond to viruses, bacteria, or pathogens, it also responds to your emotions and your thoughts. In fact, studies have found that people who practice gratitude, self-compassion, or even daily appreciation rituals have higher antibody levels, lower inflammation, faster recovery from illness or injury. Why? Because these emotional states signal to the body, we're okay, it's safe to heal. In contrast, chronic stress, shame, or fear can literally suppress immune activity. So I want you to think about that for a moment. Every kind thought you offer yourself, every breath where you choose compassion over criticism, every time you pause to say, I'm doing my best, you're sending medicine to your immune system. That's not just a metaphor, that's biology. The mind, the nervous system, the immune system are in constant communication, and that communication is shaped by the stories we tell ourselves. This is why holistic health, we don't just focus on supplements to boost immunity, we help people reshape their internal world so their immune system feels safe enough to work. Because safety is also a signal, and the immune system is always listening. So take a moment and do this powerfully and maybe write this down. What have I been telling my body lately? Maybe it's something like, you're so tired, you'll never get better, I don't trust you. And now I want you to take a moment to gently shift that internal dialogue and ask yourself, what would it feel like to speak to my body with love? Write a few kind, healing sentences to your immune system, just like you would to a friend or a child who's doing their best. And here's some examples, just for some inspiration. Thank you for working so hard to keep me going. I know you're trying to protect me. I see you. I trust your healing, even if I can't see it yet. You don't have to fight anymore. We're safe. And I want you to allow this to be the beginning of a new relationship with your body, not one of control or frustration, but one of deep partnership. Because every kind of thought you offer isn't just a mind shift, it's medicine. Now, when you write things down, it's more than just a practice, it's journaling. It's actually a form of physiological coherence. And that brings us to one of the most important things that I'm going to leave you with today, which is the science of the heart-brain connection, thanks to the Heart Math Institute. We've been taught to believe that the brain runs the show, but research shows us something fascinating. The heart actually sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. The heart actually has its own nervous system, over 40,000 neurons, and it communicates with the brain through electrical, hormonal, and electromagnetic signals. And the quality of those signals is directly shaped by your emotional state. When you're feeling frustration, anxiety, or anger, your heart rhythm becomes erratic. Think of it like a static on the radio. This chaotic rhythm sends disordered signals to the brain, which then affects your ability to focus, think clearly, and even regulate your immune system. But when you're feeling elevated emotions like appreciation, compassion, gratitude, or joy, your heart rhythm becomes smooth and ordered. And this is called coherence. And in that state, your body starts to function at a much higher level. You breathe more deeply, your nervous system calms down, your immune system strengthens, your hormones rebalance. In fact, just 2 to 3 minutes of generating feelings like gratitude can shift your entire physiology. This isn't just about positive thinking. This is about positive biology. The emotional state of your heart literally changes the chemistry of your body. And when we're working with clients or ourselves as holistic nutritionists, learning how to activate the state of coherence can be just as important as any food or supplement protocol. Because sometimes healing begins not just in the gut, but also in the heart. So we've just explored how the emotional rhythm of the heart affects our chemistry, but it doesn't just stop there. Your heart isn't just an emotional center or a blood pump, it's an electromagnetic powerhouse. And I'm going to leave this with you today as we end. Research shows that the heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in the human body, about 100 times stronger than the brain's electrical field. And here's the part that gives me chills every day and every time I say it. That field extends up to 6 feet from your body. This means that your emotional state, your coherence or chaos, is literally radiating into the space around you, whether you say a word or not. You're always communicating, not just through your voice or your body language, but through the frequency of your heart, your broadcast tower. When you're grounded, present, calm, or loving, people feel it. When you're anxious, rushed, or irritable, even if you smile on the outside, people feel that too. This is why when you walk into a room, you can instantly sense the energy without anyone speaking. It's not imaginary, it's energetic. And in holistic health, we call this part of our work energy medicine. But here's what's important. Energy medicine isn't always about crystals or tuning forks. Sometimes it's as simple as walking into a room with a coherent heart. Your presence becomes the healing. So every time you regulate your breath, every time you choose to feel instead of shut down, every time you soften into compassion, you're not just helping yourself, you're creating a field that others can regulate inside of too. This is the science of connection. This is leadership. This is why healing ourselves is one of the most generous things we can do for our world. So if something stirred you during this workshop, if your heart whispered yes at any point, then maybe this is your moment, not just to learn something new, but to step into something bigger. Because at IHN, the institute where we love to study, you won't just learn what vitamins do. You won't just memorize food charts and biochemistry. You'll learn how to see the whole human being sitting in front of you, body, mind, and spirit. You'll study nutritional science rooted in evidence, physiology, and function, mind-body connection, how thoughts and emotions shape wellness, and emotional and energy healing, from chakras to coherence. You're going to have client-centered transformations, how to be a guide, not just a fixer. But more important is you'll evolve because this journey will also change you. You'll learn how to help others to heal, but you begin healing parts of yourself. As you study this transformation, you're going to start embodying it as well. You'll graduate not just with a diploma, but with a deeper connection to your purpose, your intuition, and your own capacity to lead and serve. So something lit up in you this afternoon. If you're feeling a tug, a calling, even a quiet nudge, trust that. It's your intuition. It's actually your next step. And we'd be honored to walk this path with you. So with that, I'd like to hand it back to Elizabeth and Jason for any questions and also our giveaway. Please scan the QR code and don't forget the discount code IHN Open House for your free consultation. So with that, back to you.
Amazing. Thank you, Karim. And you know, Karim, it's so beautiful. Regina kind of summed it up here. She said, "Thank you so very much, Karim. It was amazing. Your energy is so, so lovely, so caring, so warm." And she hopes to be your student. And Karim, whenever I see you or feel you, even on the virtual space, you always emanate this peaceful embodiment. So you are a living example of everything you presented today.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. And thank you, Regina.
Yeah. So we have a winner for your prize today. And let's give a round of applause for Vandana. Vandana, you have won Kareem's generous prize today. So we hope you enjoy that so much. You can just scan this QR code and then Kareem will connect with you directly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so lots of wonderful feedback. Thank you, Kareem. Your energy is amazing. If anyone has any questions for Kareem in regards to mind-body medicine, the psychology of disease, you can put those into the chat.
Caroline was asking if you could repeat a couple of those affirmations one more time that were in the presentation.
Yeah, I can pull them back up. Just give me one moment here. There's a few more that I wanted to share that I didn't, so maybe I will pull those up. And we didn't really get a chance to talk about our chakra and energy systems, but this might be perfect as far as prompts. Do I feel safe and grounded in my life right now? That deals with our root chakra. Am I allowing myself to feel and express my emotions? That's our sacral chakra. Do I feel confident and in control of my choices? That's our solar plexus. Am I giving and receiving love freely with myself and others? That's our heart chakra. Do I feel like I'm speaking my truth and being heard? That's our throat chakra. Am I trusting my intuition or constantly second guessing? That's our third eye. And do I feel connected to something greater than myself, my purpose, or my path? That's our crown chakra. So write this down. Which chakra feels like it might be asking for attention right now? And what is it trying to tell me? And I think that would be a great prompt to work on today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Karim.
Having sleep issues, mostly because of daily activities that keep replaying in my head. I work in a stressful environment. What recommendations would you make?
Well, number one of the best things to do is journaling because it allows you to take what's going on in your mind and put it down on paper. And sometimes that's all that the body needs to know. It's that you're aware of the conversation. And when we physically write it down, it's actually giving us the space to empty out what's in our mind. Because when we don't, the brain doesn't think we've acknowledged it. We're either suppressing it, so we repeat that cycle over and over again. But the moment you actually acknowledge the thought and physically write it down, you now can let the brain know that it's heard. It's done its part. It doesn't have to keep repeating that thought pattern. So journaling is exceptional to do that. And then meditation practices where you're just aware of thoughts, but you don't dive into them. You just acknowledge them. So you let them come, you see them, and you just say thank you. And then you exercise in saying, okay, what's the next thought? And then sometimes that ability to go from one thought that's holding you down and saying, I see you, and allowing the next one to come in that allows us to move through that overthinking. So two things, journaling, meditation, awareness, and just remember, the brain isn't asking you to fix it. Your subconscious will figure that out on its own. The brain is just saying, acknowledge what I'm trying to tell you and don't suppress it. Don't push it aside. So I would do something like that to implement those two things, write it down, do a bit of meditation. That makes a huge, huge difference and can help allow your brain to finally get into rest and sleep as a result of that.
Awesome. Thank you, Karim.
Very good. Okay, Karim. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. That was a very fulfilling and spectacular presentation. We had all the attendees absolutely loved it, and Jason and I were thrilled to see you today. And thank you for all the beautiful reminders.
Thank you. Namaste, everybody. And I hope you enjoy the rest. And I look forward to our students in our sessions in our next phase of our curriculum. Will be great.
Beautiful. Thank you, Karim. Have a great day.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.